Another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition.com. That's with a K, the Koalition.com. And I'm joined by editor in chief of the Coalition, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown Show, Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on, people? This is it. We are halfway through the season. Sounds so crazy to say when we're now doing these 6-episode seasons, but here we are, right? So this is for Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, Season 2, Episode 3, Invincible. Now, after just saying that, I was thinking, well, it's like The Book of Carol is Season 2. Really, it's Season 1 then, if that's, you know what I mean? It's not really a spinoff of a spinoff. It's just the next season, but I guess, I mean, we understand it, but I'm just thinking if I'm were to say that to someone who hasn't been watching any of this stuff, maybe they may be a little lost. It's like, well, is this all about Carol? Is this one of those where it's like, oh, we did a side piece story to this other side story of the main series, you know what I mean? But no, it has that title, but it still flip-flops between Daryl's situation and now Carol over in France. So, oh boy, people. This was, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, we got a lot answered, and we'll get into it. But in fact, why not? Let's just jump in. We'll just get into it. So, everybody, if you haven't known, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. It's already out there on AMC Plus, or you can wait till it airs on the network on AMC proper. But we are going to break down this episode, give some spoilers, because we are going to discuss the good and the bad, and then give our little thoughts at the end of where we think this episode is compared to the rest of the season and where it's going. Are we still interested in this story? All right, so let's just figure this out again, like usual. Do we want to start with Daryl, or do we want to start with Carol? What about you, Rich? What do you want to do?
I say we start with Carol, since I feel like the story was really about Daryl and that group more so this episode. So let's go with Carol first.
All right, you cool with that, Carlos?
Yep, that sounds good.
All right, so let's jump into this. So the last we saw, she got picked up. We discussed this, and pretty much by choice, right? She joined that mob, wanted to get involved, see what's going on. Well, they saw that she knocked out one of their guards with the truck. I wrote her name down because I was going to blank on it. Hold on. Janae. That is the big bad. Her name is Janae. She's the I still don't really know the name of this group, but she is their leader, right? Like, that's pretty much it. Or she is the muscle, but she's mainly their leader, Janae. So she saw this and says, no, you're going on this other bus. On this other truck. And then that's where she met the other English-speaking Frenchman. Talked about his partner being in the truck behind them. That one makes a detour. We know the whole shebang. They're split. So anyway, we now see that Carol is now, which is weird, because I know we could also throw in a little bit, and we will, with Janae's backstory, because they do sprinkle that in here. But in fact, let's just start with that one, because we were talking about with the Lou where Mona Lisa is, and wondering if that was really the location. And we find out in the post that was. They actually did go on set there, which is amazing. I'm sure that cost a pretty penny. That can't be cheap to say, all right, listen, we want to close this down for whatever amount of time, fill it up with our actors, and just play this whole scene out. So right off the bat, were you guys impressed with that? Because I know that was something that I had issues. I was like, this can't be real. And then we found out that it was. You guys impressed that they're opening up the wallet for this season? Carlos?
They got locations. Before we, being in Georgia all the time, it's like, everything's filmed in Georgia. So, it's pretty cool to see the set locations with the Louvre and all that stuff. So, it makes it more authentic. I wish we stayed more time in that place. We kind of just got that one shot where with the glass in between, but I'm glad they most of these scenes, well, obviously all of these scenes are in location. So the production in this show is up there, compared to the rest of the Walking Dead stuff, especially compared to something like Fear. Fear is like it could have been in my backyard where it was filmed.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think that's the other reason why we're getting these shorter seasons, because it does cost a lot more when you extend them out to like 24 episodes, 16 episode seasons that they used to do. It's a lot when you have a budget. And we're going, how are we going to sprinkle this across? And when we all know the tropes that usually the mid-season and the season finales are usually the big budget episodes, right? We're all used to that. But if you shrink it down and you have, let's say, that same budget, you could do a lot more in just 6 episodes. And then you could make each one feel special. Clearly, like you pointed out, they spent that money on set designs and real locations, because this was pretty interesting, because we see Jenny's backstory, and she was a janitor over there at the Lou, and she's just going around, she's cleaning things up, and she's talking to some people, and then everyone's phones going off, and this is day 1 of the zombie outbreak over in France. It was cool seeing, like you said, it would have been great to see more of that location there, but who knows? Maybe there's only so much that they had access to in those in regards to how they can film. But it got the point across. Chaos. We know the chaos. People running around. She's talking to her husband on a cell phone. He's on the other side of the glass panel area. She couldn't get to him. They're trying to get to the next hallway so they can cross paths. Couldn't make it. And they're sharing their affections, and then all of a sudden a walker comes up behind him, nom, 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 and then down he goes, and she's just there in tears. That's her backstory, right? So what I found interesting, and I guess it made sense in post that we found out that they really were on site, and that was the Mona Lisa, because there's that nice scene where she's in the room by herself. No one's there. It's just her and Mona Lisa, and she's getting that whole connection vibe there. And it's just having that. I can see, and the actress discussed this also. It was amazing, and you're right. It's probably a once in a lifetime, that you get to do something like that. But I don't know. It didn't really do much for me for her character development, because I'm still trying to figure out, how did she become the leader of this group if you were just a janitor? Like, how do you get to that level? And it's possible. I'm not saying you can start from the bottom and work your way up, but I think we need more of her backstory to see that progression. And maybe, I mean, we can't do it now because we got these 6 episode seasons, but it reminded me of when I saw this, The Governor. Remember, was it season 2, Walking Dead proper? The Governor everyone was trying to figure out, wait, what's the story with the Governor? Well, they gave him a whole episode. Remember, there was like this whole episode explaining the backstory. And sometimes I feel you need that for the big bad, when you want to tell this amazing story, instead of just saying the typical trope, oh, this person was a military leader. All right, we get it. You were already a leader. All right. No, this was not the situation. She was a janitor. So how did you get to the point where you can have people follow you to create this military force and then to go fight, which I figure out the good fight or bad fight. I'll bring it up later when we start discussing our thoughts on this, but I don't really see a good side in this story right now. But
well, they do it with I feel like most villains, they have the same type of story where they weren't actually like in positions of power for the most part. I mean, was it Negan like a school teacher? I forgot.
He was a gym teacher. Yeah, it was a gym teacher. And he just he fought some dudes, and then he just had some other guys convince him. Yeah, it was a bunch of other people, but yeah.
So a lot of this is sort of similar track record with previous villains, and it seems like these times are what molded them to be, the leaders and bad guys that they turn out to be. In regards to this one, I'm not too big of a fan. Obviously, I appreciated the production that went to it, but and you talked about it with the governor and stuff like that, and even we had a whole episode with Negan's backstory, with his wife and stuff. Those episodes are really well made, but they're also take place, they take a whole episode to explain, or to show. And this one, since we're in such a tight schedule when only 6 episodes for the whole season. It's like you can't really give her that much time to flesh her out and her character and her backstory and still tell the rest of the story. So I just felt like they shouldn't have done this, because I felt like it really didn't accomplish anything except for that one scene where they made the dude eat from the floor, which was kind of ridiculous. But I didn't understand why they felt like they needed to do this, because it took a lot of time from the episode when they can't really do her character justice with just the first 5 to 10 minutes of the episode. Like even when we were watching it, even talked about it, how the husband was killed and she was just like doing the weird sort of reaction. It's like it doesn't seem like a type of reaction that would happen. It's like it's more like
like she was crying of sadness, but if anything, it would be more shock. It was like,
it's super
that?
shocking.
Yeah.
So I'm just I feel like they should have just not done a backstory and got us into this to make us feel something for the character when they just don't have enough time to do it. At least do it justly.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought maybe the only reason why they did it was for that one line when they cut away to after that whole little flashback, and then you see Carol standing in front of the Mona Lisa in that area, and everyone's eating, and then she walks up, and Janae walks up to Carol, and Carol says, "Oh, is this real?" I was like, "Yeah, it's real." "How do you know it's real?" I was like, "Oh, it's because I effing stole it." It's like maybe that's why they did it, so that way she could prove like I'm a badass and look what I did, type of thing.
Yeah. Well, what could have happened is would have been. I felt like a much better way to do this is instead of doing the backstory, like the flashback, it could have been her telling Carol the story of her origin. Be like, my husband did this, and then he died while I was working at the Louvre, and I was just a janitor, and they treated me like shit. And that's how I learned how, the whole hierarchy effect and how it led me to. I felt like that would have been better because it not only would have given us a bit of her backstory, it would have added more to the time of her and Carol interacting with each other, because now they interacted once with the Mona Lisa stuff, and then it was pretty quick, and then and then right after it's like, "Oh, I caught you." Like if she would have been caught with a little bit more extra screen time of them together, I feel like it would have been more impactful. Especially when at the end, she double switches on her, like she's like, "Oh, I knew you're just pretending," and stuff like that. So it's like, it would have been. I felt like it would have been a more tangible way to make that story.
Yeah. Rich, what did you think of the whole backstory with Janae?
Well, first and foremost, let me just say this: Carlos, it sounds like he would be excellent as a writer for this show, because that was a very good explanation of what they could have done. I do agree with his point that they could have did that a different way. The one thing I will say about the backstory, and obviously the directors were talking about this afterward. They were saying, well, yes, Janae and Carol pretty much are the same character. They've both grown to become people who have been underestimated, and they proved everybody wrong. I don't really think we got a sense of that with Janae, because you just had her witnessing her husband get killed. That was a very traumatic scene for her to witness. And then all of a sudden she decides, okay, now I'm going to take over and run this group. So I think that explanation was not quite sufficient. But I mean, obviously, they're trying to tell you that she is on equal footing with Carol. And I, as a viewer, I'm not really convinced of that. You already know that Carol is considered the good, she is considered on the good team, and Janae is on the bad team. So clearly, we know eventually she is going to have her reunion with her husband at some point, hopefully by the end of this season. I have no idea. But overall, I thought, I understand what they were trying to do with that backstory. Then you explained the Mona Lisa, why she still has that painting, what the symbolism is of that painting. I get what they were trying to do. I just think, like Carlos, you probably needed a little bit more time if you were going to dive into to show how she made that decision to all of a sudden become a leader instead of somebody who was just a janitor. I think we needed a little bit more time spent with that, but it is what it is. I think they just wanted to give you a bit of a perspective to try to make you feel something for that character. But I will say this, and then I will go back to you, Adam. The scene where she saw the husband about to get chopped and you're just looking in fear, not even warning him, just looking. Oh, I can't believe what I'm seeing. You don't tell him, hey, watch out, dear. Nothing. And then the guy gets
like banging on the glass or something, like pointing behind you. You know
exactly. Yep. I didn't like that, but it is what it is.
yeah. And that's it. That's the whole issue here. Is like, where do we go with this? Because unless they keep sprinkling more, there's only 3 more episodes. So you keep doing that. It's like, well, why tell it this way? I don't know. And I'll get to it toward the end. I don't want to just jump to the end of it, but I'm still, and I don't want to get it. We'll get to that point. But anyway, so now we have Carol seeing, like you mentioned, the guy on the floor eating up, just again proving Janae's power over everyone here, that she is the boss, so respect the authority. And so she gets put in to work the kitchen. And so she'd be like, they were all getting assignments. Now that's the other thing that sort of threw me off. It's like, why did she get put into the kitchen? Well, I mean, I thought from her what she did against that soldier, hitting him, knocking him out, whatever, taking over, that she's a go-getter with force, that they were trying to recruit her to be part of their military force or do something like that. No, we're going to put you in a kitchen. You're going to start something. That part made no sense. I didn't understand it, but I think it makes perfect sense for the story of what they were trying to do, of how she can go about to get her information, and she's walking through a corridor with her buddy that she became friends with, the other guy. They pass by this open area, and you could see some people get lined up, they get shot, and then a doctor guy comes out, so it's giving them some injections. And then that's when we start seeing the experiments, right? We see 2 of them just get up, start shaking and running, and then they take them down. So we did get runners, and now we see that runners will be part at some point of the Walking Dead overall universe. I think, not just the Daryl. I think we'll probably see some of that in Dead City and wherever else they decide to go. But this was great. That part was great to see, because Carol's freaking out. I was like, why are they doing this? What's going on? I was like, I don't know. There's a rumor of the experiments. And then we'll get into when we get to that point where Janae explains it, which was like kind of no, that doesn't make any damn sense. But it was cool to see this. And I find it funny, man, it's hard to not jump ahead, but it's just certain things that make no sense. Like when later on, when Janae was like, well, we saw that you were, you know too much. You saw what we were doing. Well, you were doing it out in the open on the courtyard. She didn't just Carol didn't just sneak down a hallway somewhere, and then just crack open the door. Like, oh my God, look what's going on. No, it's like they had to pass that way, that courtyard area, to get to the kitchen or wherever she was working. And then they saw it as clear as day, actually, during the day. So what the hell? But we'll just get to it. So she gets to the area. She's doing her thing. She's serving whatever chow that they have. And while she's serving, she's asking anyone, hey, American Daryl, doing the whole shebang, talking. Eventually, who responds? Our former big bad, the soldier, all beat up. He looks a mess. Now, Rich, you had pointed, or was it Carlos? Somebody had said that he was going to flip, and he was going to, that you saw in the future that he was going to help Carol. Who was it that said that?
It was probably me.
It was probably somebody said it. Was like, oh yeah, I see. This is because when we were talking about him getting tortured, and it's like, oh, what's the point of this? And it's like, oh, because then now he's gonna flip because he's pissed at what she was doing to him, and she's gonna help. And this could have planted that, right? Because he's like, what, Dixon? Oh yeah, I should have got him. I let him go. Oh. And then she's like, oh, Carol with the lies. Oh boy, one after another. They see people lying just gets you into more trouble, because eventually someone will know one part of the lie, another person knows another lie, they will communicate, and then it goes out. But this is saying, oh, my brother, and this is I need to find him. I traveled so far. He's like, oh, what? And it was perfect for him if he would have just said, well, he killed my brother, so I don't care. But no, he doesn't say that, and he listens to her little sad story speech and says, all right, you want to find him? He's at this compound place, but you got to get there quick. And so she was like, okay, there you go. She then tells her little French friend that he can come too. Let's leave. He's like, I'm not leaving. My partner's still here. All right, well, I'm out. Like, she knew she was going to get out. Now, when they showed before, this was a well-fortified, lot of soldiers everywhere, but nope. She was able to escape whatever room she was in just to knock out that one dude to get onto the horse. And as she's going down the hall on the horse, next you know, we see in the courtyard surrounded troops. They were all there waiting. So before I go any further, what did you guys think of that whole interaction of how she did the escape? Did that make any sense to you? Did it seem like, oh, all right, this is possible?
It seemed too convenient at first. I was like, man, this seems like it's pretty easy. One dude, and that's it. And I obviously I didn't know that it was a trap, but it just seemed like it was too easy. Yeah, and the whole going back to the dude with that was messed up. Yeah, I guess, and we'll get to this later, but did he tell on Carol also?
Huh? Yeah, he did. He told on Carol. You see that right at the end. Right, so he does, they do a little flash. He's out in the corner and he's out of prison. Whole thing. He ratted her out, basically telling the boss. Because remember, Janae had said, and we'll get to it. Right, in fact, let's just jump into it. When they cut back, we see that she's Carol's being interrogated, and we see the dude's there, her French friend, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry. This is the only way I can get my, my partner out. You would have done the same for Daryl, and that whole thing. And Janae was there talking and saying, this is when she says, was it information is a commodity here, right? Something to that effect, selling that whole thing. And so that's the thing, same thing. It's like, all right, so he gave that info. I was really hoping that when she said, all right, we'll drop off you and your partner anywhere in France that you want. And I was hoping in the hallway, we were just going to hear like buckshots, like, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe we'll see them later down the road. If they did survive, that Janae stuck to her word and just let them go free. But that was the whole thing, and then it comes back again with that dude that you see that he's out of the prison area. He basically probably told her, hey, listen, I got some info on that American woman that's here. She says she's his brother, the sister of Daryl.
Yeah.
Because then once she goes in the room, there's Daryl, there's Carol again telling Janae another lie, because Janae was like, come clean, tell me. Because remember, back at the Lou, she gave this whole bullshit story about, oh, I've been here 13 years. And you said it, Carlos, 13 years, and you haven't picked up any French? What is wrong with you? Who does that? Come on now. If you're going to be there 13 years and if you have just the gall to tell somebody, I've been here 13 years and don't know the language, shame on you. Shame on you. If you live anywhere in the world that long, for over a decade, you better learn the language. So that made no sense. You should have just said, hey, I was here on vacation a few months ago or whatever. I don't know. Just traveling through. I was just coming from, I'm a tourist. I don't know. I was in Amsterdam. Make up something. Don't say you've been living there 13 years and don't know the language.
Yeah, just but like anyway, I came from London or something. I don't know. Like,
yeah. That was just dumb. That was, or you know what? Just scratch that off the script. But like, no, let's not bring that part up. That doesn't make sense. But back to the point. She then tells Janae another lie. She's like, "Why am I here? I'm here to kill Daryl. I traveled a long way. I manipulated a guy to fly his plane." And she gives the whole story about, I met these people and they wanted to, procreate with my pilot and do all this stuff. And it's like, they were nuts. And Janae starts laughing, but I'm sure she's not thinking that it's a lie. Thinking it was like, this is too far-fetched for somebody to make this up. So I'm sure that probably did happen. So yeah, this is crazy. People have lost their mind, including myself. I'm a janitor who now has a military group, but whatever. And she doesn't now. Oh, there you go, Carlos. This would have been the best part for her to open up and talk about, well, I also have come a long way, and then say, hey, I was a janitor, and just have her narrate in the background, and then just show the frames and this and that. And then I also lost someone, maybe now I don't know what this Daryl did to you, but I know what these walkers have done to my life, and taking my husband and the whole thing. But anyway,
And what was your husband's name? Sophia.
Sophia, right? See, yeah, I figured she was gonna go further with all these lies, but oh man, it was just one after another. But anyway, she says, "Hey, we're gonna go. I'm gonna help you. We're gonna work together. This is Janae. We're gonna go and I know where this place is, and you're gonna get to kill him. That's right. All right, here we go." So they get to the compound area now. I still, we've argued about this before with Walking Dead and with Fear of the Walking Dead. Maps, locations. We don't really know distance. We don't know just this overall design of the locations and the layouts. And the reason why I bring that up now is because they keep showing the nest as being on like this little remote island, right? Like this castle on this island. But when we see people come off and on, that we don't see like a bridge or anything, unless it has something to do with like high tide, low tide. Maybe with low tide, then they can just drive up over it. But when it's high tide, they can't. Maybe because I think we saw some of that mentioned last episode when Daryl and Isabella had their little heart-to-heart moment. Not sure, but all we know is that Janae and their army, including Mr. Big Bad, because they showed him he was there, are all there ready to attack. And Carol's like, "Oh, this is it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to kill your friend. And we want you here." And they, "Oh, what? Oh," and then that's when they did the flash showing that the guy was there. And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." He went and said, "Hey, listen, get me out of here. I can be useful. I have some real info for you. And unlike her, I really do have a vendetta because I still think that fool killed my brother," which he did not. But before I go any further, does that make any sense? Like, is it just me that was trying to figure this out? Like, if she already knew that he's the nest is the nest, everybody seems to know where this is. Because how did she get so close, and why did it take so long? That's my thing. I don't know unless I missed something.
Well, maybe Rich can correct me if I'm wrong, but she didn't know about the nest. She just figured it out until Carol, the whole thing with Carol went through. The dude that got messed up, he told her, and then that went into the Janae's possession, I guess, of information. But I don't think they even knew about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I heard that part two, and I was like, but then if that's true, then why didn't he just tell her when he was being tortured? Why didn't the big bad dude tell Janae when they were torturing him?
I was thinking about something different. What if maybe it could have been that we just misunderstood that part of the episode. What if did Carol ever tell the French dude, the friend that turned on her? Did Carol ever tell her where she was going, where Daryl is and stuff like that? Or if the name Daryl? I don't remember. It could have been that she told him that, and then maybe Janae got the information from him instead of the messed up dude. Maybe we're misunderstanding that.
That he gave so the little French guy there, the helper.
Yeah, because remember, Carol asked him to go with him. Maybe she told him where it was.
Maybe. But then the only way she knew is because she found out from this dude that was on the floor. Remember so that's why it's like, I don't understand. He was tortured already. He could have easily said, "Hey, listen, I didn't capture Daryl. I didn't get the boiler room, but I know where this location is. So let's go there."
But he withstood everything. I mean, he was getting tortured and he never told her. So it just seems kind of convenient for him to tell her the moment Carol gets into the place. Because he was so reluctant to tell her also that she had to tell him about, the whole story about them being siblings and stuff. So I think maybe it's something that we missed while watching the episode, and it was probably the French dude. Well, we keep saying the French dude; they're all French dudes, but the friend, the so-called friend that told on her to get his dude back.
Yeah, maybe because I felt like the only thing. Well, what I was thinking was that the only thing he told Janae so that way he could help was like, hey, I think that American woman's going to try to escape, and she plans on doing it tonight. So that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe they waited for theatrics to capture in the act.
No, because she knew, but because Janae knew that Carol was directly tied to Daryl. That's part of it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely know that. Because then that's why it's the big bad. Because the big bad was like, oh, the dude that was all beat up because she had told him that she was looking for her brother. So
no, yeah, but you're asking was the dude who turned on Carol only told her that she was escaping, and I'm like, no, he told her way more than that because Janae knew about Daryl and Carol's relationship through him. There's no other way she would have found out.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, either way, she knows. But it doesn't really change anything because, I mean, I don't think anyone watching or listening to this podcast or even watching this show thinks that Daryl or Carol are going to die, especially not in season 2, since it's been approved for season 3. So if this was like the end all be all, they could do something, like that and just knock one of them off. But I don't see that happening. And that's the only part that sort of hinders the whole thing from getting more dramatic. Because you're expecting something severe to happen, and it's not going to happen. And that's the one time it gets useful when you have a bunch of cast members that you follow for just even from one season to the next. And more changes happen in Daryl's segments, so we'll get into that. But with Carol, with this whole thing, we never think that unless they cut off a limb or something, we end up like Rick with missing a hand. We don't really see her in danger in any way. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, what? So yeah, her little buddy, whatever, he double crossed her. But even if he didn't, if they just killed him because he escaped or tried to escape with her, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh great, he's going to be the one that dies. They're going to try to escape, and he's going to fight with the guy or do something, and then end up dying. But,
I knew that was never going to happen, and I'll tell you why. Because there was never a resolution with the little French dude and his little French friend.
Yeah. Because I thought maybe he was going to try to say, well, I'll go with you, but you have to help me get my friend out. And that would have been too much of a detour for the story because Carol doesn't care. Carol doesn't care about this guy or anything. She just needs to get out so she can go find Daryl. So anyway, that was it. That was all of what Carol was dealing with. So the end all of her arc is now that she is with Janae, with a full army standing outside of the castle over at the Nest, getting ready to just do a full-on invasion. They did have a little heart-to-heart conversation in the car talking about where they stand on things. And talking about how Daryl has aligned himself with this pretty much a cult, right? A religious group. And this is why I said it earlier that I don't think there's a good side on this because we see what's going on with the cult side with Daryl. It's a mess. The whole thing's a mess. Trying to test this kid. He's going to die. The whole thing, take a bite. And then we see what's going on with Janae and her military force and then doing these experiments. Like for what? To rebuild the army? Because she was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the super army. We're gonna have them work for us as opposed to against us. We won't have to fear them, and we can control them. That makes no sense. That does not. That's like a Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe type of logic. There, it's like no. How does that work? That you think you could inject something into zombies and pretty much dead, and then tell them what to do. Don't attack these people. Attack those people. How are they going to distinguish the difference? None of that makes sense. So for her to tell Carol this whole speech about what they're doing with the experiments, that made no sense. And yes, we know all the drama that's going on with the Daryl side, which is why I'm saying I don't see a good side here. Maybe some of the Graybeard and his rebel friends were not so brainwashed with the whole religious part of it. But besides them, the two sides, there is no good side. They're both bad, right? Or am I missing something? I don't see. It's not like, oh yeah, we need to help this group here defeat this other group.
Well, I mean, there's certainly one group that initiated the violence on the other. So, whether they're considered good or bad, we know who we should root for. It's definitely not the people who who were entrusted in the group and somehow they wanted to kill because they weren't that faithful.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's just get into it. So that was it for Carol's part. So then we get over with Daryl's part. And he had just left the mill with Graybeard and friends, right? They figured out, right, we got to get back. We got to save Laurent. And we were wondering with Sylvie, right? That was the other nun from season 1. That was a big part of the season also. And last we saw that she had tracked down, following the woman that was bringing the meal over to the Laurent's favorite meal or whatever. She was following her. And then it led to that priest dude. And we were like, oh, what happened to her? Did she die? Nothing happened. She was put in a room, and it's just held, not really as a captive, but just like, hey, you just stay here. All right, guy comes in, starts talking to her. She knocks him down. She escapes. She goes running around. She's screaming, Laurent, Laurent, Laurent. She's trying to find him. Everyone in the courtyard now, there's tons of people because everyone's getting set up for what's supposed to be taking place. Now, this is the thing that I don't get. Is this all supposed to have happened within a matter of hours in one day? Yeah, I see Rich, you're nodding your head. The reason why I ask is that Sylvie was very loud, screaming, this guy, and how did Laurent not hear this? It makes it seem like he's right there, in a room off the side of the courtyard area there. But she's running around, she's screaming, Laurent, the whole big thing. You can't do this. And then she's over an archway and she's screaming all this stuff. And you got soldiers coming on both sides, the priest trying to calm her down, from below. But somewhere between the scuffle with the soldiers, she goes flying off and she dies. She lands, breaks her neck. It's over. This was an interesting way for her to go, but it was too quick. I didn't like it. It didn't go. It sounds like with that sigh, Carlos, you had some issues with this.
I didn't have issues with the overall scene. Well, I'll put it like this: the way she bit the dust was ridiculous. It's like like they could have just done something like other than like. It seemed like more like a slip on the banana peel type of death than just something else they could have done. They could have. There was like really different ways.
Yeah, it didn't look like they were trying to throw her off.
No, she fell on her own.
Yeah, it
was her fault. And it just like, it was so dumb. I'm sorry. That was we talk about eye rolls per episode. That was a huge ass eye roll. It's like she wasn't in like danger. Like obviously she's gonna be reprimanded, but she wasn't in immediate danger like for her life. She essentially killed herself.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred if they would have been more cutthroat and done something more intentional in terms of what with the other faction, it would have made us hate them more. And yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this. Is probably the worst part of the episode for me.
Mm-hmm. Rich, how did you feel about your favorite character being killed off in the third episode of season 2?
Well, first and foremost, not my favorite character. I will make a comment though. Let me just say this: the people of color, they definitely went out in this episode.
Oh yes, the husband,
and they were the first to be, and they were the first to do so as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, but I will say this: I do agree with the criticism of the death. It would have been good. The leader of the group, that the guy that's very religious, he should have been the one to push her off of that balcony. That would have been. Then you would know for sure that yes, he was responsible, because again, he tried to sound so sincere later in the episode when he tells
she
Daryl,
lost faith. Yeah, she lost faith. Remember, that was the other thing. She lost faith. Yeah, he could have said that because he was saying it to the people in the courtyard. He should have been up there trying to calm her down, and then when pushed her off, like she just lost faith.
Exactly. That I would have been fine with that. So I understand the criticism. I will say though, I knew what they were going to do when she died, and then you get to what happens next. I knew they were going to do that because it made too much sense for it to be that type of situation with Laurent having to do this test, and then you have somebody else that was so close to him trying to protect him. I understand that. So that made sense. If they were to go in a different direction, she could have been out. She could have came out there and been the one to prevent him from doing the sacrifice by getting bitten as well. But they took this path, so I understand how they got to that. But yeah, I understand the critique as well. So it is what it is.
You know, and
she's one of the main. She's one of the quote unquote main characters of the show. Like obviously, it's Daryl's show, and then Carol and Laurent and Isabelle. But
Right
she's
here.
one of the she's like in the Father Gabriel type level of character for this show.
Yeah,
She was one of the-
sub characters. Yep, she's one of
So
those.
she didn't get her like just due. It's like it was so unceremoniously, and
I agree. And I will say that I kind of felt like that character was going to go because her boyfriend got taken out in the previous episode. So I kind of feel like at that point something might happen to her, but we had to wait and see how they were going to handle that part of the storyline. Because then it also justifies and makes Daryl, everybody else even more angry, wanting to get back there and to get Laurent away from that situation and to get some type of revenge. So
yeah. And I also I do we're gonna get to this, but I do want to warn you. This is controversial opinion here.
All right, we'll get to it.
There's gonna be another huge eye roll in the episode.
Here we go.
We're not too far off from it. That's all I'll say.
Well, here's a question I have, and we're getting into the next part. Is when that priest guy goes to visit Laurent and starts saying, "All right, we're getting ready," and he's all hyped, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm calm. I'm ready for this. There, let's go." Does he know he's going to get bit? Like that's part of the test, or does he think he's going to have to produce some other form of, I don't know, the exercise or whatever to prove to people? Because I unless I'm mistaken, I didn't hear anyone say, "All right, this is going to be the test. We're going to have a walker come out, bite you, and show that you can't turn, and that's going to be proof." No one says that.
Yeah.
Right?
They never said that. And I'm just going to make a comment and say, we'll get into it later, but I think that is a cop-out because for the entirety of this show, they told us that this character is special. I haven't seen a damn thing yet, so I was wondering where they were going to go with this.
He calmed down a grieving woman. That's the only thing we know. Remember, it was like a woman grieving. She was upstairs. They said she never leaves her room. He says, "Let me talk to her." He went in there. She came out. Everybody was like crying. "Oh, he did it. He did it. I told you he's special." You know, that's all we know. That's all we know. But then, yeah, like you said, like here, and then when the priest guy was like, "All right," I mean, he's obviously putting something in his drink. I was like, "Here, drink this. It's just honey." And this is like, "Oh, calm you down." I was like, "I don't need it. I'm good." And she's like, No, take this. And we see why, because as soon as they walk out, he looks like he's been drugged. And this is when it would have made more sense. And this also tells me that he doesn't know, Laurent doesn't know that he is going to have to take a bite, that let a walker bite him. And that's probably why he wants him all drugged up, so that way he doesn't freak out, panic, and then we're like, "No, let me out. What's this? I thought I was just gonna have to like try to heal somebody or do something."
That's my eye roll number 2.
What was that?
That was my eye roll number 2.
Yeah, there you go. Right, that's an eye roll. It doesn't. That upset me. That upset me because at least have it where he asks a question. So what exactly am I supposed to do? Don't worry. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna prove everyone wrong. It's gonna be great. But that's the other thing also, is that this is being performed in front of the would-be full cult, right? Over at the nest. This is, if they're already there in the compound, you're all in. You're a firm believer. You know what I mean? You're preaching, like the old saying, you're preaching to the choir if you're telling people in church about God and all that. No, you go out into the street and try to lure people. You go into a public park and say, "Hey, gather around, everybody. You don't buy this Kool-Aid, get ready to see some magic." That's what they should have been doing. This doesn't make any sense when he's like, oh, we have to do this to convince these people, because they never showed us people rebelling against it. We never saw people saying, hey, the life is still hard here. It sucks. I thought this kid was going to save us. We don't hear any of this. We don't see any complaints. So why do you feel the need to prove when no one's doubting? It seems like everybody was already all in that he's the chosen one. We got the chosen one. And even if, let's say he gets bit, he survives, then what? What does that say? How does that help everyone else? That unless you start draining blood and then start injecting that into other people and say, well, maybe this will help you, like a vaccine type of deal. Maybe it won't. We don't know. But yeah, it worked for this kid. So, that's the thing. It leaves that open-ended path of like, where are you going with this? And I don't know if we'll ever find out. We'll get there. But like you said, Carlos, so this was your eye roll moment.
It's just the fact that they had to Bill Cosby a kid, man. It just didn't sit well with me. I don't know, man. I don't know about you. It's just
yeah. Well, I agree. There clearly is a show for mature audiences. You had a group getting lined up and gunned down, and then you have this kid getting drugged. Yeah, clearly this is a very dark show. So they've nailed the tone, but I kind of think some people are going to complain about some of this stuff that's in the show. But I agree.
Yeah, it's just there's different ways to do what you wanted to do without having to do what you had to do. So
it was whatever. So they get to the point where they're about to do the whole, all right, we're gonna bring out the Walker, and we knew at this point who this Walker was going to be, and it was Sylvie. Take the hood off. At this point, we got Daryl, Graybeard, Isabelle, and some others all gathered around. They made it into the courtyard area, and they see what's going on. They're like, oh, wow, this is it. They're going to do the sacrifice moment. And Sylvie's all zombified. She's leaning in. He's at this one, LeVron, his eyes are pretty much closed. So I don't even know if he knows. And that tells me enough that he didn't know that this was going to be the part. But it would have been great if they would have had some little setup piece of him asking, what am I supposed to be doing for these people? Am I giving a speech or something? Like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be great. You're gonna help out. Now just drink this. Then we'll be like, oh, great, he doesn't know. Because then what if he does know? If he does know, then it's like, oh, that's even worse. Then he's just as bad as them if he thinks that, because then he's going to think he's special. Because remember, the first season, it was that. He kept saying, well, I'm special, I'm special. What makes you special? You tell Daryl. Daryl will ask him, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, that's what they say I am. My situation. So you have to treat me special. Everybody else treats me special. That type of thing. So is he still going along with that? This is for LeBron? I don't know. But anyway, Daryl drops a swear word, which is great to see in this universe now, because he should be super angry. And he takes out the Walker, and takes out Sylvie. That kind of sucks, because sort of to your point, Carlos, it would have been great if we would have seen a little more with it. Even, her death sucked, but it would have been great if he shot the soldier that was holding onto Sylvie, and they let her just run loose. And she's obviously not going to attack the priest guy, because he's a big part of the story, but his henchman, that woman that brought the food, it would have been great to see her get bit, like, it's like, well, that's what you get, this was all your idea, you ruined everything, because apparently they tried to make it seem in the last episode, it was really her motivating to do all this. Remember, it was her saying, oh, I sent those people to kill Graybeard, Isabelle, and Daryl. They were getting in the way. They're messing things up. Oh, don't worry. And then the priest guy seemed kind of shocked, like, wait, what are you doing? So it would have been great to see her get her comeuppance right now by Sylvie the Walker, but no, we don't get that. So a lot goes on here. Commotion, chaos in the courtyard. Isabelle grabs Laurent, who's all drugged up, gets to Daryl. Daryl says, all right, the special cave spot. You guys go there. If I don't make it in a day, just disappear in the wind. And this was a time for him to pull a Rambo moment, right? We see Daryl going through courtyards, big props to the stunt team out in France. These guys are amazing. They're going downstairs. They're getting shot. They're banged up. They're taking boopings. They're really making him, that Daryl, look good. You know, in wrestling terms, right? They are taking bumps, real bumps. I mean, Daryl looks invincible against these guys, and it was great. We're seeing a lot of different action scenes here, but he can't beat everybody, right? So next you know, he gets caught, and now he's in the room. You see he's getting tortured. They're beating him up. The priest comes in, starts asking questions. It's like, where's Laurent? What's going on? I'm not telling you anything. The whole thing. Well, we know this. We know that there's no way it's going to happen in this way that they're going to find out. Right. But before I go any further, because that was a big thing for me, just seeing all the action. What did you guys think of all that? We're seeing a lot of people like, oh, well, we've seen Daryl in action. Yeah, against walkers. But this is him going hardcore against humans. You know?
Oh, no, I agree. The action for me, that actually was the highlight of the episode. You know, I feel like Rick will be very proud of Daryl with all the ass that he kicked in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he has to be this brutal, right? To make sure the people are dead, you know, because they're trying to kill him anyway. So I would expect him to be this violent and visceral with how he's approaching everything. But yeah, I didn't have any issue with it. That to me was the most entertaining part of the episode. Obviously, at some point he was going to get caught though, because we saw the trailer for this episode ahead of time last week. So you saw that he was tied up being interrogated by the leader. So, but yeah, he put up a really strong fight up until that point.
Yeah. And then we get a little flash with Laurent. He's in the cave. Graybeard shows up. Where's Isabelle? Oh, I don't know. We got separated. The whole thing. Like, oh, okay. Well, there goes that. And then we get the next scene with Daryl all chained up. And then he has a friend. His friend shows up, Isabelle. And she's all chained up, beat up looking too. And he says he didn't say anything. I was waiting for her to say, but I did. No, but she says she also didn't say anything. I should have looked this up and go ahead, people, leave in the comments. During the point where Daryl was talking with Isabelle about going back to America and saying he wanted to go to Ohio, is that where him and his brother were from? Like, we know they were traveling through and they met up with the crew, the Walking Dead family, in the first season. It was in Georgia, but I don't know where Ohio comes from. And
I mean, they're really, I mean, him and his brother, I forget his name,
Merle. Yeah.
Daryl and Merle seem pretty Southern to me, like Southern dudes. So I don't believe Ohio. I don't know why he said Ohio.
I don't know that either, and why.
Maybe they were from there, but I just don't remember. It's been forever.
Yeah. Can I just make one comment, and this might get some people angry.
Oh.
I love you. I absolutely did not buy any of that. So obviously, yes.
Oh,
she cares.
I thought you were telling me I love you. I was about to say that.
Oh no! Oh yeah. No. Listen. We understand that she shared a kiss with Daryl in the previous episode. Obviously, she has had a crush on Daryl since she met the character the first season. I get all that. But I don't know how that one kiss all of a sudden, like, oh, I love you, all this other stuff. And it's like,
I mean,
I don't know, man.
He pulled some heroics. He saved her. Remember?
Rich.
He's done a lot.
Yeah.
It took Kojima far less time to tell him that he loves him.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, the best is in that moment is because we know that. And I think she also knows that Daryl, he doesn't speak French. He doesn't know. And so he's holding her hand in the whole thing when he's talking about when they start reflecting about life. And he's like, oh, it's going to be great. And I don't know what he's living. He's like, oh, we'll go over to America. And how we got fireflies. Just talking about Tinkerbell and how Laurent's going to be going to school like a normal kid. And they're going to have long walks. I'm like, where is this? Where are you? You weren't even doing this when you were in America. You weren't seeing any of this. So it's all Fantasyland stuff. And yeah, when she says it in French, I love you, and he just stares at her, we have to assume he knows what she said, you know, or maybe in his mind, because this is still Daryl, she could have just said, that's all BS, you know, but I don't know. It was funny just to hear that. And he didn't respond and he just gives that look like, what? It's like, I don't know. What do you think? You think that he knew that that's what that meant? That she was opening up and saying that she loves him? Because he could have just said, me too.
I'm not sure what he was thinking in that moment. He's thinking that, obviously he needs to get back to Laurent, make sure that he is safe. There's a lot of things that could have been going through his head. Obviously I want to see how this relationship is handled though once Carol actually finds him. Because again, it's a lot of things, obviously Carol and Daryl have a very unique relationship. Don't really think that will be an issue, but it's just, I don't really know if that character is going to survive because she put herself in that situation. She could have escaped, as well. Obviously she stayed behind because she was concerned about Daryl and she got herself caught. So, but clearly I don't really know how that's going to end. So we have to wait and see what happens next.
Yeah, wait and see is right, because right at the end, we see that it looks like it's the next day. They open up the door. They grab Isabelle. Like, where are you taking her? What's going on? And then the priest guy is like, oh, no, she's going to help us. We're going to get this done. He's like, no. I'll help you. I know where he is. Like, no, you're too far gone. That's it. We can't rely on you. But she was one of us. She's one of us. She'll tell us what we need to know. So, that's it when it comes to that. So what do you think? I think, like you said, I have a feeling that she may be next to go. I don't see her making it to America, especially not on that small plane. I don't think anyone's going to get back on that plane to America. I think they're going to have to figure out another way. Spoiler, people, and this is not me spoiling because I know anything, but just from the way that the showrunners and what they've talked about for next season, they said, oh, we're going to other places in Europe. So that tells me they definitely leave France. They go other places, but I don't think they're going to be going back to the States. It's going to be almost like a Quantum Leap situation, for Scott Bakula, that whole thing, for those who ever watched that sci-fi show where he keeps saying, oh, I'm trying to make it back, and he keeps jumping body, but he never makes it home, is the point. I don't see them ever going back to the States until this show is over. Then they'll head back. But until then, this is a Euro trip. They're going to go all over the place. Who knows? I could see Amsterdam. I could see all others. And who knows? There's probably going to get a lot of good financial breaks for filming in a lot of these locations. Especially it encourages tourism and other things like that. So there's incentives to film in some of these locations. And I'm sure when they see the ratings and all this stuff, it's like, hey, there's a big interest. It's like, oh, yeah, come film in our area. We'll help out. If you could put us on TV and then that stuff, I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, we'll go there. That'll be the next step. So hopefully it gets more interesting with that. But back to this, because of that, I don't see where Isabelle fits long term with the Carol and Daryl, because that was always going to be their thing, right? Their adventure. You throw her and Laurent in the mix, and that's too many people. Plus, we still got the pilot, if he's still alive, and maybe right, yeah, and maybe if he gets a bigger plane, he could be their Murdoch to like the A-Team type of thing, like, oh, I'm driving where you gotta go.
Well, there's let's just think about the crew. It's Daryl, it's Carol, the two big goods, and then there's Laurent, there's Isabelle, and then there's a brother. One of them, we know one of them, as Rich has alluded to from the start of the show, is going to be gone.
It's going to be Graybeard because he doesn't speak English.
I think it's a safe bet that he will get taken out before this season is over. Unfortunately, because you know what it is, but we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. Go ahead, people. Leave in a comment either on YouTube or on Spotify. What do you think? You think this crew that we just mentioned is going to survive? Because at this point, I don't think so. I think it's still going to end up with Carol and Daryl on a boat going to another part of Europe, trying to escape, and then that's where their next adventure. I think this part is done. I think once episode 6 comes ahead, that's it. We're out of France. I think it doesn't matter what happens with the cult, and that's what I'm calling this religious group, and with this military force, they're going to battle it out. Clearly, that's going to happen in the next episode, right? It's coming to a head. Mm-hmm. And what's the end result? That's the thing with the military group. They're upset with the religious group. Okay, so you take them out. Then what? Then I mean, what happened to the government of France? Are they completely gone? Like the only thing holding Janae back from total rule is this religious group? Is that what they're trying to tell us? And that's why they have to do this, and it all comes down to this little boy, because I think that's what they've been trying to set everything in motion. They made it seem like all of France were all aware of this would-be messiah, this little boy, and and they had to get him first before the religious group did to bring him to wherever their hidden compound area. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we won't have to wait long because there's only 2 more episodes to get these questions answered. All right. So anything else you guys want to say before we give a little effect? Yeah, let's just give our ratings. I am going to, I'm just going to give this a B.
Oh.
I'm just going to give it a B. It did answer some questions. It did move the story along. You know, Carol is getting closer, so it's not like she's going further away, having more side adventures. No, she's here. She's literally at the gate of the location of where Daryl is. So that we didn't have to drag this out. That was one of my other fears, that they were going to drag this out. And I still don't know if they're going to interact in this season, but at least she's close. She's close. You know, and it's progressing that, and we're seeing an actual conflict happening. It's not like a House of the Dragon, where that ended of like, oh, big battle. Wait another year and a half, and then you'll see that battle. I think we're going to see this battle take place within these 2 episodes. But it just, some of the eye-rolling moments, like you mentioned, that doesn't really do much for me. So,
if now that you mentioned that, I'll just give mine C-. I'm leaning towards D, but I'll be nice. C- for the reasons that I stated in the previous portions of this episode. With the eye rolls, I wasn't a big fan of the fact that Laurent was drugged up. I wasn't too big of a fan of the way that Homegirl died. It was kind of ridiculous. Everything else was pretty decent. So yeah, I'll give it a C-.
Mm-hmm. And Rich,
that definitely that definitely was a controversial score. I wasn't expecting Carlos to say that. So, here's the thing. I'm going to give it a C+. All right.
Oh,
the combat for me really was great in this episode. I like seeing Daryl get very aggressive, taking people out. There's some stuff that didn't. Yeah, there you go. Daryl Wick. There is some stuff that didn't make sense. Like you guys said, there's definitely some critiques. But overall, I still think the episode was decent, and I still think that this season is better than last season so far. That's just my opinion. But
so here's a question for you guys. Where do you see this show going? Like, I was hoping that it was going to be similar to like The Mandalorian almost. Not so much that every week there's a different story, but at least every season, and since they're so short, 6 episodes, boom, 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 and now you're off somewhere else. But as you see now, this is almost, and we talked about this before, where I think we felt that it was filmed all at the same time, right? This whole thing was already done, and that way they can go and move forward for the next. So my thing is, I was hoping that if they keep going on with these, that it just takes Carol and Daryl to different locations, introduces to new stories, new ideas, new situations that they need to get out of, or in a journey now to get home, because that, I think, is the end goal and the end result for this show, is when they do make it back to the Commonwealth and do that whole thing. And even though it was Daryl's idea to leave, and then all of a sudden talking about that, I found it kind of still funny that he keeps saying, I miss my friends, I want to go back. You didn't have to leave. You chose to leave. So it would have made more sense if they just kidnapped him on the road while he was scavenging for resources. Then it's like, man, I need to go home. The people are worried about me. Whatever. But anyway, that's my point. It's like, where do you think this is going to go when this is done? Do you think at the end of episode 6 they're done with France, or do you think they're going to continue with this whole back and forth? Because I mean, it looks like it's done, right? This looks like if this was a series finale, like this final season, if this was a final season, you would think this is it, right? You already know there's a priest. He's in the compound area. We got the other bad group surrounding, ready to attack. This is it.
So, in my opinion, this show should end with season 2. So, because they've already confirmed it's getting a season 3, I think at the very least, one of these groups is going to get taken out before the end of the season. Well, what I mean is that the leader of this group, the cult, that guy is probably going to meet his end at the end of this season, and then going into season 3, you'll have Daryl and Carol go to different parts of Europe, but they'll still have to worry about Janae and her army coming after them. That's what I think they're going to do. Although I do think they could resolve a lot of this stuff in the last 3 episodes, just like they did with the Rick and Michonne show. That was only 6 episodes, so I kind of feel like if they wanted to, they could definitely resolve the rest of the story in 3 episodes. But because they announced this another season, they're going to leave at least one major conflict that they have to deal with going into season 3. So,
and
that's my guess.
I'm hoping that conflict is the running walkers, and it turns into like 20 days later. That's what I'm hoping for. That's the end result. It's like, everyone's dead. Janae bites the dust at some point. Something all that happened is like, all right, well, we stopped her. It's over. It's not going to happen. It's like, no, we didn't. It's that now these ones, the walkers that they infected that can run are biting, and they're spreading their version, their variant, and now others are running. So you see someone get bit again, like 28 days later. It wasn't a bite, but it's still the blood transfer, and then poof, now they're running. They're off to the races. Then there you go.
I think that is, I agree 100%. I think that is a far more interesting storyline of having these other variants of walkers make their way over to the States, and then cause a lot of issues over in the States. Hell, even send them back to where everyone else is at in Alexandria. That would be quite chaotic. So I would like to see that happen.
One of the things they didn't talk about in this, and because you brought it up, and it just reminded me, is when Aaron, remember that part where he saw them turning the knobs?
Yeah,
opening up doors and climbing walls. They're already getting smarter there, and that was not something that was brought over from France from experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we could argue that had to do with the Civic Republic, doing that whole thing and their experiments. So the experiments on all fronts, but I don't know. I have a feeling, or maybe, Janae still bites the dust, but the original bad dude that got all beat up, he survives. Now he still has his vendetta. He still thinks that Daryl killed his brother.
Yeah,
and that could be what happens. It's like he's like, well, this whole thing fell apart, whatever. Maybe he becomes a new leader of the group, and it's like, I'm going to hunt him down. And I just do. I don't see the end result of why people follow, because how are they getting money? What are they? What I mean? What's your incentive as a grunt to join this force? What, maybe for free food and a hot shower? I don't know.
I think that character is going to die at some point in time. I don't know if it's going to be this season, but it feels like he is in really bad shape. So there's a lot that it will have to do to get him.
Yeah, his hand was all mangled up.
Yeah. He's in really bad shape. So he needs to be on his way out sooner rather than later.
All right, people. Thanks again for tuning in over on iTunes, Spotify, of course, YouTube. Keep liking and subscribing and following. We've been doing this for years, and we're still doing this while they're still producing. I have a feeling Walking Dead will always be around in some form, right? There's always going to be something. There's still an interest. People watch this. People love it. Not just this, but I mean the universe itself of Walking Dead content. So thanks again, everybody, for the support. We will be back for episode 4 of Daryl Dixon season 2 next week. And that's it. Until then, talk to you guys later. Peace.